Good morning. My name is Terry Aukus. I'm an agronomy sales manager with CFE, and today we're going to discuss for today's Field Friday emergency forage situation in the drowned out spots in row crop situations. So obviously this spring, with the heavy rain that we received, there are many fields that experienced drowned out spots, as you can see behind me, and so that's left the question, what do we do with those field scenarios where we have those 5 to 10 acre drowned out spots? Do we leave them black, or do we keep tilling them? Do we plant an emergency forage or cover crop? And so with those questions, I'd like to answer a few of those today. So first of all, the thing that we have to evaluate is what the chemical label states on the herbicides that you applied. The label is the law, and in a lot of situations herbicides have a 3, 4, 7, 9, 10 month restriction on what forages or any crop that you can plant in those scenarios if you're to harvest that second forage. And so again, I can't stress enough where the label is the law, and the label is there to protect from getting chemical residue into that secondary forage and getting into the food chain. Once you evaluate the label, and if you're able to plant a forage, or if you strictly intend to have a cover crop scenario and not harvest a forage, that is different. And so in a lot of instances the cover crop is not stated on the label, and so you have flexibility as long as you're not going to harvest that forage to plant a variety of different products to create a cover, keep weeds down, and keep soil activity going. So with that said, I'd like to review some of the options that we can put in there. Again, once you evaluate the label, the most common are products like small grains. Oats is widely used because it's fairly inexpensive, it's quick growing, and it will not overwinter, so oats is widely used. Winter rye is another one. They'll grow well into the fall and break dormancy in the spring if you don't mind having any growth in the winter or spring to contend with. Obviously they'll need to be terminated probably with herbicide, can be with tillage too, but herbicide would be the best. But between winter rye and oats are the most widely used small grains. From a tonnage standpoint, sorghum, Sudan grass, and millet are summer forages that are very heat-driven products. Sorghum, it's middle of July, it's almost getting a little too late for a true sorghum, but a forage sorghum is widely popular right now just because of the quick stand establishment. A lot of them are BMR type, brown midrib, where the quality is outstanding. So again, if your herbicide label allows you to plant a crop in that scenario, forage sorghum is probably one of the best for tonnage. We can get anywhere towards 15 to 20 ton per acre by fall. One thing that's very important with any of the sorghum Sudan type products and straight Sudan grass is a topic called Prussic acid poisoning, and what that is it's a poison that can be in the forage and be highly toxic to livestock. And there's several different scenarios how Prussic acid we have to watch out for. It's grazing or harvesting young sorghum or sorghum Sudan, or in a drought situation if it's stressed, which obviously we're not in that right now. Or the third option is if we get a hard freeze or frost, that triggers Prussic acid poisoning. And ways around that is just do not graze early sorghum Sudan. And if we would run into a scenario in the fall where you'd like to harvest it and you got caught off guard with a frost or a freeze, leaving that forage stand for a week or two, and once you do harvest it, you ensile it and let the fermentation process occur. And lastly, you can always test the forage when you do get it in a pile or in a bag and what the levels are, and you can work with a nutritionist on how to feed that or what levels you should feed that. If you were to graze a sorghum Sudan field, it would be recommended just to let a few test animals out just to see what the level are, because you would notice symptoms right away if you are concerned about it. But it is a concern. I've not seen wide problems with Prussic acid poisoning, but we want to make sure that growers are well prepared, that they know what it is and how to prevent against it. Another, from a cover crop standpoint, the brassicas like turnips, tillage radish are another great way. I've seen a lot of the field scenarios where that ground is hard and gets kind of compacted and tight. Planting a forage or tillage radish helps break up the compaction, so I've seen growers do that, and in combination with the small grains works well, and that's a fairly low cost option too. Millet, a forage or a hay type millet, they're extremely heat tolerant. They start quickly, and they're actually a very low cost option, where I've seen where we've planted them middle of July, and by the middle of September they are mature and can be hayed or chopped or grazed. Two other options that are consideration is annual ryegrass. Annual grass is quick starting, fairly inexpensive, and can be hayed, and it'd be similar to a waterway or brome type grass or forage. And the last one would be a legume, which is called field peas, another very quick starting legume. It's a low growing legume, also planted with an oats or a cereal rye where growers wanted to graze or forage chop that. It would produce nitrogen for the soil for the following year too, if you would actually use it as a green manure type product. But with that said, we've tried to give you a whole host of different products or options. Again, I strongly recommend that we check the herbicide label before we do anything. Second, we just have to assess what type of cover and environment are we going in and what you want to accomplish. If it's a cover crop situation, again, there's very limited information on labels in regards to that. And remember the Prussic acid poisoning concern with the sorghum or sorghum Sudans if you happen to plant those products. With that said, I encourage you to talk to myself or any one of our field agronomists if you have any additional questions. Thank you.